Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to tackle what can be kind of a contentious topic, and that is the question, is all-purpose or white flour bad for you? And so we are going to dive into this and talk about the pros and the cons of white flour and the pros and the cons of freshly milled flour. And we're just going to kind of dive into it so that you have a clear idea of whether it's actually bad for you or is it okay to use all-purpose flour. So let's jump right in. So the first thing I want to talk about is there are like three groups of people when it comes to baking, and especially in the sourdough realm. That is the white flour group. They use all-purpose or bread flour, and that's it. And then you have people who only use freshly milled flour. And then you have people who are a combination. I kind of link myself on that side because I'm not like a hard nose about a lot of things. So sometimes I do use all-purpose flour. I always use it mixed with freshly milled flour if I'm going to use it, but I don't feel like it's terrible to use it, and I'm going to tell you why. So when you get on some sourdough groups or bread baking groups, especially those that have to do with freshly milled flour, white flour becomes kind of a villain and it's terrible and we should never eat it. And while I will agree, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, that white flour isn't the healthiest choice for bread baking, it can be used in ways that it's still not as bad as buying store-bought bread, I guess you could say. And I don't really like to villainize any ingredients because there are applications for even convenience ingredients like all-purpose flour, and I'm going to tell you like where this comes in my baking. So I mostly use freshly milled flour. The reason is because freshly milled flour has all of the nutrients intact. It has the bran, the germ, the oils, all the things that make it super nutritious, and that's wonderful. That is what, if you're wanting to eat healthy, if you're wanting to have healthy bread, you know, freshly milled flour is like king because it has all of that nutrition. So the question is, if you mix some all-purpose flour or bread flour in with that, does it negate all of the benefits? I have no technical answer for that, but here's my opinion. I think that if you use a portion of all-purpose flour and a portion of freshly milled flour, you're only adding nutrition when you add that freshly milled flour to that recipe. You're adding fiber, you're adding vitamins, minerals, those good oils that are in the freshly milled flour. Is it best to only use freshly milled flour as far as health reasons go? Yes. But I think it's important as well that we are successful in our baking. If you decide to only do freshly milled flour and you never have good results, are you going to stick with that? Or are you just going to go back to using the all-purpose flour? And that is the question. That is where we have to be careful. I would rather somebody use half all-purpose flour and half freshly milled flour in a bread recipe than to give up on freshly milled flour altogether and just go back to using nothing but all-purpose flour. Now, let's answer the question, is white flour bad for you? Well, I wouldn't say it's bad for you. It's just not good for you. It's like an empty ingredient. So all-purpose flour from the store, and I mean even the good organic, unbleached all-purpose flour, has been sifted of all the bran and germ. Well, that's where the nutrition comes. Does it make it bad for you? I guess you could kind of argue that it's bad for you because it's just starch, it's just carbs. But then in the same sense of looking at it, it could be better for you than buying bread out of the store that uses bleached flour that has been enriched with all of this, you know, extra vitamins and minerals. It could be better for you that way. And so to villainize it, I don't think is like, I don't want to go down that road. I want to say that to me, if you are wanting to get into using freshly milled flour, don't look at all-purpose flour as something that is an enemy. If you can get your hands on good organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour to mix in, you will have way better results. And then in time, just keep increasing that freshly milled flour until you're using, if that's your goal, to use all freshly milled flour. And that way, you don't give up. I've had a lot of people tell me, I just can't get good loaves using all freshly milled flour, especially with sourdough. They okay if they use yeast, but when it starts getting into the sourdough rim, it all falls apart. And I understand that. I went through that, and it is very discouraging. And you want to give up and just say, forget it. But if you mix it, you're still going to get those health benefits from the freshly milled flour. You're going to get that extra nutrition, that fiber. Now, these are just my opinions. I don't have technical studies or anything. I'm just telling you that to be a successful baker with freshly milled flour, sometimes you have to ease into that. And I do not believe that adding some all-purpose flour in with that is going to negate all of the health benefits of the amount of freshly milled flour that you use. So does making a loaf of long fermented sourdough bread with only white flour. Does that make it bad for you? I wouldn't say that at all. I would say that it is much better for you than buying bread from the store that has 40 ingredients in it when what you're making is 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter. So I hope that this short video kind of dispels that. I think there's almost fear of using all-purpose flour sometimes because we feel like it's bad for us. But I would much rather you make bread with all-purpose flour than to buy store-bought bread. Look at the ingredients. You don't need all those ingredients. And I just wanted to make this video because I think that I was looking at some kind of a group that I was on Facebook, and it almost seemed like you were doing something wrong if you use all-purpose flour, and I don't look at it that way. I think that if you can get a good, high-quality, unbleached all-purpose flour, and you're making sourdough, even if you're making yeast bread, it's better than if you buy something in the store that has a plethora of ingredients that you never, ever need to make bread. And I hope that that kind of helps, ease that thought if that was in your mind. I think that jumping on the freshly milled flour, bus is wonderful. But I think you'll be so much more successful if you'll start out just mixing it and work your way up and don't feel like you're doing anything wrong and don't feel like you're cheating and don't feel like that it's not good for you because you're using that all-purpose flour. Look at it as I'm adding some nutrition to this bread now that I wasn't adding maybe before, and it's a good thing. So I just wanted to share that with you today. It's been on my mind for a few days because of a post that I saw, and I wanted to make sure that we look at that. We don't villainize ingredients unless, they're chemically laden, made in a lab ingredients that probably aren't good for us. But something as simple as a good quality, organic, unbleached all-purpose flour, I would never want to make it out that that's terrible because I still use it in my kitchen, especially when I'm making blog posts and I need to get pictures. They look better when they are, made with a little bit of all-purpose flour, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel guilty, and I'm okay with it, and I eat it, and I'm fine. So, but anyways, I just want to share that with you all, and I hope that you found it helpful and informative. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know which camp you're in. All-purpose, all freshly milled, or a combination. I would love to know. All right, well, that's all I have for you. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. God bless, and we will see you on the next video.